Hey everyone, welcome back to Tatas Cave, and on today's episode I wanted to talk on elders and the cosmology of Palo Mayombe. So let's get right into it. Elders. See, I've been noticing a lot of people mentioning how elders should be treating them, but no one talks about how they should treat elders. There's a difference here, and it is very drastic. And what I'm noticing a lot of is that a lot of the newer generation has no understanding, and it's very disturbing to see that no one knows how exactly an elder should be approached and how exactly the relationship between an elder and their godchild should work. So first off, you have to understand that elders have a lot of responsibility. Um, they basically just take you under their wing and they take this commitment to guiding you and to making sure that your needs are met spiritually. And so, in a lot of cases, elders would even go out of their way to put you and your best interests ahead of their own. And it's because of this that you start bringing it into perspective, and you start understanding that when you approach your elders, you should approach your elders with the utmost respect and the utmost appreciation. And it's something that's lost nowadays. I remember when I was younger, there was a lot of instances where I just did not agree with my elder. Like something interesting. My elder was a big time Notorious B.I.G. fan, and I was a big time Tupac fan. You could already kind of guess where this is going. We just didn't see eye to eye, but he's my elder. So when he would say, even something as simple as Biggie is the best, you know, I don't agree, but I'm gonna just let it be. Um, and see, that's the thing. When you're the godchild, you don't understand the importance of that, and you don't see the importance in that. But one day, when you're the elder, you would want the same amount of respect from your godchildren. So there's a lot there to it. That that respect that you approach an elder with, and then the love that you approach them with. But see, that's the thing. There's a lot of quote unquote elders running around here nowadays that they have no love for their god kids. It's all about the money, and so in return, their godchildren have no love for them. So it is very much so a complicated subject, and it's something that is like if your elder really goes out of their way and they're really interested in you and your best interests, maybe you should take into consideration how you treat them and what it is exactly you do for them and how you do it for them, because they can definitely go clean out of their way for you and your sake, but who goes out of their way for them and their sake? That's one thing. But yeah, needless to say, it is definitely something where it's on a person by person basis. Not all quote unquote elders are deserving of such love and respect. Some of these folks are really just out here, to make a quick buck, and they don't care about nothing or no one. And I don't see the need to treat them any kind of way. Not good, not bad. It's just, look, we're not that close, so I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like we are. But for the elders that really are about that life and they really are willing to pour into you, make sure you're pouring back into them. Uh, but yeah, that's all I had to mention on elders. So let's talk on this cosmology, right? So the cosmology is something that is very interesting and very few people understand. But there are several different kinds of spirits. Everyone knows that. But what people don't understand, and it seems to escape people, is these spirits have several different positions within your spirituality. And what I'm talking about is there is personal spirits, there's family spirits, and then there's something along the lines of like tribe or nation spirits. And all of these spirits can be any kind of spirit, basically. The position doesn't affect which kind of spirit, and which kind of spirit does not affect the position. These two things are not related. Um, so basically, there's um, think of it as almost like an onion. There's different layers of which you can have spirits in, and in each layer, right, you can have almost any kind of spirit within that layer. The kind of spirit is not affected by what layer it's at. And that's what I wanted to talk on today. So it's very interesting because even among spirits, there is hierarchies. In Palo Mayombe or Nkisi Malongo, which is the correct name, there is hierarchies. And it really is not something that is discussed on too much. So let's talk about this. Kimpungulu, which is plural for Mpungu. These are gods. These are god level beings. Each one of these individual beings could have been a god of this universe, and yet they are a lesser god than the god Sambi Sambiampungo. That is the creator god of everything. But each individual Mpungo is, in a biblical sense, mighty enough to be the reigning god of this universe. Um, so these Impungos are really supreme, and they are in a whole different category from every other kind of spirit. Um, these beings just don't fit in with anything else. These are beings that are it's just they're too much. It's not the same. Not even in the same tax bracket, basically. From there down, then you have um, what we would understand as elemental type spirits. Now, the elemental spirits are also on a whole nother scale than, let's say, ancestral spirits, but they're not quite at the level of Mpungu, right? So these elemental spirits, and there's different classifications for them and different names for them depending on who you ask. But generally speaking, you're talking about Simbi and Kita and Tembo and Kisi. That's what these spirits are, right? Um, as I said, it's very particular to who you ask and what they call them, but everyone has a basic understanding of the same thing. These are elemental spirits. From here down, that's when you get to the point of spirits, just regular spirits, like what people would believe to be the word spirit, right? So these are Mfumbe, and there's different types of Mfumbe, but let's just keep in mind that this is where the ancestors reside, right here in this category. Now, keep in mind also, just because this is a category, it does not mean that any one specific spirit is identical in power to another. There's a whole range of, let's say, energy levels, right? Within this category. So some spirits will actually be stronger than others, and some will be weaker than others. It's unfortunate, but that's how life works, right? So you can have um two, three ancestors, and out of the two, three of them, even they have a specific hierarchy among themselves. There will be one that is stronger than the others, and that will be the big dog, the alpha, and then there'll be the second in command, and then there'll be the third one. Um, and that's just among those spirits. Then you go ahead and you go up the hierarchy again to the elemental spirits, and they have their own different range of energy. So some will be stronger than others. It's only really when you get to the level of Mpungu where you really stop measuring who is stronger than who, because it doesn't matter if you have a grain of the infinite or a ton of the infinite. Infinite is infinite, right? So it doesn't matter if this specific Mpungu has less energy than that one. They're both infinite, so quite frankly, it doesn't matter. Either way you put it, there's no real way to tell which one is actually stronger or which one actually has hierarchy over the other one. Um, so now that we went over hierarchies, and trust me, there is a whole nother level to the hierarchies, one that is lower than spirits. Um, well, I mean, we could talk on it. It's basically it's considered ghosts. So remember from previous episodes, I did mention I do not consider spirits and ghosts the same thing. I consider ghosts beings of less light and clarity that may or may not have evil intentions, or quite frankly, they might have pure intentions, but their intentions just don't connect the way they should, right? They might want to help you, but because they have no light and clarity, they can't. So every time they do try to help you, your life goes to shit. It's not intentional that they're harming you. It's just a matter of they don't have the light and clarity to help. So these ghosts are even lower on the spectrum than spirits. And yes, that is something that is very interesting. Um, they do not have the light and clarity to be considered spirits, so they are not elevated enough. We use the word elevation because if you think about it, there's kind of like a mountain to climb, right? And at the very top, there's the Mpungu, and at the very bottom, there's the beings of the least amount of light and clarity, aka the living. So we don't actually have a concept of demons or devils. You heard it here first. Palo Mayombe does not believe in demons and devils. It does not. It does not even consist of it. It does not even register for us that these beings could even exist. Now, what there is there are certain beings or spirits or ghosts that may or may not have a negative disposition. So, for example, we would believe in something like an impungo that, quite frankly, can have a temper. And then you go ahead and you trigger that temper, and then that being is going to be on a warpath, on a rampage. Now, normal people will be like, "Oh, that's a demon." It's not. That's a thing. That is a being with the energy levels of a god. And for all intensive purposes, that being is normally not destructive. We then trigger that being to being destructive, and all of a sudden, then it becomes, a dark destroyer. But yeah, we don't have the concept of demons and devils, and quite frankly, we don't even believe that it's even possible in, the biblical terms where it's something that is purely evil and powerful at the same time. Well, I mean, if you look at it, the lowest level of spirituality before you arrive at the living, right, would be ghosts. For something to be more evil, more sinister, it would not have the power, the same amount of energy as living creatures. So it would actually have less energy than living creatures. So even if there was something completely sinister that was worse than ghosts, it just wouldn't have the energy to actually affect the living, because it would be even lower on the scale than the living. So that's a thing for us. I'm not saying that, as I said, that that there's no such thing as beings that can't be destructive. I'm saying that we don't believe in demons and devils. There is a difference. We do believe in destructive energies, absolutely. But any good energy can be flipped to being destructive, and any bad energy can be flipped to being good. That's the long held belief in Palo Mayombe and Kisimalongo. So now that I mentioned this whole hierarchy thing, right? Let's get to these different layers. So on a personal level, um, most people have what we would consider, and bear with me here. I'm trying to give examples. It's probably going to be an oversimplification, but on a personal level, everyone has something along the lines of like a guardian angel, right? So this being is very specifically interested in your well-being. Um, you resonate with them, and they resonate with you. In in some cases, people go as far as calling them their mother or their father, um, spiritually, anyways. Um, Personally, on a personal layer, on a personal level, everyone would have one of these. This is vital to your personal progress. So everyone would have this. Um, from there, um, the other thing that you would have personally is ancestors, right? That's because everything in Palo Mayombe, everything has to have roots. It has to have an origin. It has to come from somewhere. And that includes you. You have to come from somewhere. You have to have roots. You have to have an origin. Otherwise, you don't exist, and we can't believe in your existence. You can't just, hop out of the matrix and say, ta-da, I'm here. No, you had to come from somewhere. So, because of that, obviously, every individual person has ancestors. Um, and then you have any specific spirits that may or may not be related to you, that do attach themselves to you in order to help you and give you guidance across your lifetime. Now, for the most part, I would say a good 90 something percent of times, this is done at birth, right? This is not done later on in the life, even though I have heard of a few like weird cases where it's like someone all the way in their adulthood had a spirit attach themselves to them. For the most part, it's done at birth. When you're born, all these spirits and all these energies attached to you on an individual level. So then, the family level of spirits, what is that? So the family level of spirits is spirits that are specifically pretty much the same kind of concept as the individual layer, but instead of being for just you, it's for your whole family. So your whole family will have specific spirits that deals with them. And it might not be the same spirit that you would have individually, right? It could be a whole different kind of spirit. But that spirit is dealing with your whole family and not just you. So say for example, let's give, a great grandma somewhere, and she's with you individually. But then great grandpa decided that he's going to be a family spirit. He's going to be there for the whole family, not just you. There isn't a wrong or a right reasoning behind great grandma and great grandpa being on two different layers of your spirituality. Quite frankly, they're both still a part of your spirituality, so they will both still come through when necessary. The difference is that great grandma specifically focused on you, whereas great grandpa stayed with the whole family. It's the focus isn't you; it's the family in general. Um, so the whole family generally, and this is a lost thing, right? In a lot of cases, in what I've seen in Palo, everyone focuses heavily on the individual and no one even acknowledges the family spirits anymore. And it's kind of disturbing because there is um, something that they're missing out on, and that's community, that's family. They're missing out on this. So these family spirits, generally speaking, can include impungo, and they can include every other kind of spirit as well. Elementals, and then infumbes or normal spirits, they can include those too. So you can literally have, let's say, your own individual guiding impungo, your mother or your father or whatever, but then your family has a whole different one. And so then it's two impungo that watch out for you. They watch over you. One for you individually, and then the other one for your family. And that's why it's such a big deal to me that I find it so weird that people have forgotten about family spirits. Um, it's just wild because they miss out on a whole level of spirituality in their arrogance and in their, I guess, greed for individual identity. Um, and then you have the third level, which is like tribe or nation level spirits. Um, these spirits are something that is very, very interesting. It's also very controversial. As you could figure, the more people you bring in, the more heavily debated these spirits become, right? Because everyone wants to be able to say that they're the ones in charge or in control of these spirits, and no one wants to be the ones that's like, well, y'all do that. I'm just chill. I don't need to be in charge. I don't need to be in control. I'm just happy to be here. Um, so with these tribe level or nation level spirits, it's not just your family. It could be multiple families, several families, and it just gets very out of hand if you think about it. The sheer scale, the sheer scale of what these spirits are working with is massive compared to, say, an individual scale, right? So because of the scale of this and the severity of what it is they're working with, the greater majority of times only spirits of specific, um I guess you could call it like specific legacy or history, only legendary spirits, only mighty and powerful spirits were appointed as tribe or nation spirits. The best of the best, the cream of the crop, top of the mook, whatever you want to call it, the best of the best was up there. And these spirits, well, I mean, they could still be technically from any of the categories of spirits. It could be something as um, mighty as an impungo, all the way down to, a spirit, an ancestor that was venerated so much that, the whole tribe, the whole nation rallies behind them. And then in that sense, then that spirit gets elevated to the level of, an Nkisi um, earth spirit. Is just the way it goes. You keep elevating, you keep climbing up this mountain, and you keep elevating, and you will get there. Um, so yeah, is definitely a possibility to have several different types of spirits all around you, all at the same time, and all of them at a different level of spirituality within a whole different category in and of itself. Um, so, in terms of let's speak on the importance and the severity of these different levels or tiers of spirits. Um, and this is another reason why I find it so disturbing that people do not focus on family spirits any longer. And yes, they still do some work with tribe or nation level spirits, But I don't think they even understand that that's what they're doing. And we'll speak on that in a little bit. So, the other reason why it's such a tragic loss from my perspective is because out of the three levels, individual, family, and nation, the least important is your individual spirits. I'm not saying they're not important. I'm saying they're the least important. And the reasoning behind that is because that is very specific to just you. Right? Don't get me wrong, that is beautiful and that is powerful for you, but it helps no one else. Those spirits will not be able to, say, help your kids. Those spirits do not participate in the rest of the family affairs. Or should I reword that? They can help your kids, but they have no obligation to, right? They don't have any obligations to anyone but you. They can choose to help the ones you love, or they can choose not to. Completely up to them and whatever your relationship with them is, which is a whole nother subject. But they can choose not to. They don't have to help anyone but you because they are individually there just for you. You are the sun and the moon in their existence, and they don't care about anything else. Family spirits, on the other hand, yes, they are very heavily centered around you, but they're also heavily centered around the rest of your family. So even if you have kids, even if you have cousins, all these other family members, they're also interested in their well-being and in their best interests. So it furthers the legacy, it furthers the community, it furthers the family bonds. And because of that, these family spirits are so greatly important, and so it's such a tragedy to see so many people just refuse this level of spirits. And then the most important out of all the spirits is considered your tribe or nation level spirits. And the reasoning behind this is because these spirits have the greatest impact in this world. They have the highest level of responsibility, not just over you, over your family, over your friends, over everyone around you that you hold dear. These spirits will be the ones that will go to bat for them every day of the week. I can't stress enough how important that is. But I can see where we lost this, right? And where we lost this is through the slave trade. When the traditions arrived in Cuba, everything was so mixed up, and there was language barriers. There were all sorts of miscommunications, and it would make sense that it was lost at this point. You're trying to explain this to descendants that have never seen any of this. They don't understand any of this. It makes sense that certain things would just get lost in translation. But here we are, further along, and we know that these things exist. Some folks actually didn't have it lost in translation. Some folks actually learned about this from their elders, who learned about from their elders. But that's a long story short. Let's move along from that. So the importance of these tribe or nation level spirits, and what I meant when I said that there are people that still observe this level of spirits, but they don't know that they do. So this can be seen throughout the entire Palo Mayombe traditional religion, or should we just call it correctly, Nkisi Malongo. There is different branches in the traditional religion, and there's three main ones. Nowadays, people like to argue that there's more than three, but there's three main ones. I'm not gonna argue whether there's more or less. I'm just mentioning the three main ones If you've been taught that there's more, that's between you and your elder. But the main ones are Mayombe, Briumba, Kimbisa. And each individual one has what we would describe as a main spirit, the big kahuna, you know, Big Daddy Kane of that branch of Nkisi Malongo. For example, in Mayombe, Big Daddy Kane, the big kahuna, is Ensasi Siete Rayos. In Briumba, Big Daddy Kane is Sarabanda. These are two completely different Mpungo. And yet in each branch has their own understanding of why that spirit, why that specific Mpungo is Big Daddy Kane, right? So when you get initiated into these branches, guess under whose authority you were initiated? Under that spirit's authority, right? So if you were initiated into Mayombe, you were initiated under Dincencia. For the record, people get that word wrong because it sounds similar to Spanish licencia, which means license. Dincencia means roughly the same, license or permission, right? So you get initiated when you get into Mayombe. You get initiated under Dincencia and Sasi Pungo. When you get initiated into Briumba, you get initiated with Dincencia Sarabanda. And so you see, these are very different things, and yet people observe them, but they don't understand that this is why this happens, right? Why is it that Sarabanda has to acknowledge me within Briumba, and no one acknowledges that this is because this is a tribe level or a nation level spirit? This is the Mpungo that reigns over all of Briumba. And so this spirit specifically watches over all of us. They are related to us in a tribe level, at a tribe or nation level. So yes, it must be. If we want to join the tribe, if we want to join the nation, then yes, we need acknowledgement from the current sitting big dog of that tribe or nation. Absolutely. And it's very weird to see how many people don't even acknowledge that that's exactly why these Mpungu are the way they are, and why we acknowledge these Mpungu in general within these branches. I think people just think, well, in this branch they just want to worship, this one, or in that branch they just want to worship that one. I don't think they understand that there is a difference here in terms of creation and in terms of origin, right? The origin of these different branches is different, and so they have different beings that watch over them, and it's okay. It's okay to be different, but it's not okay to be ignorant to the fact that yes, these spirits, we definitely do lean in one direction rather than the other. And it's not because we feel like this one is cooler than that one. It's because this one is a part of our tribe. This one is the one that gives us the license, the permission to be part of the tribe in the first place. But yeah, moving along from that, that's neither here nor there. I just wanted to point out the nation or tribe, whichever one you want to call it, level spirits, and how drastic their influence is on not just your life, but everyone around you's life. These spirits are so much more responsible for things that go on your day-to-day life than what you would really think they are. And yet they like to not interfere as much as possible. So the more petty the thing is, The more petty problems you have, the more individual the spirits that handle it become, right? So let's say, for example, um, you have an argument with someone. You're not going to see spirits that are all the way at a nation level or nation categoried spirits interfering in something as petty as an argument. You might see some family spirits interfering, but it's very rare. But the individual spirits are almost always in on that. Who you arguing with, why, and why are you over here getting upset, and who the hell is this person? Why do they think they have the permission to get you upset? And then the greater the issue, the higher up on that category scheme you will see. So, like, say for example, something requiring surgery. Now, this is a very serious level thing, So, this is where you're almost always gonna see. Yes, definitely individual spirits will be involved, but at this point, then we gotta call in the big guns. So you'll see definitely family spirits involved, and you might even see upwards of nation level spirits involved, right? Depending on how important it is to the survival of your nation, they will get involved on helping you walk out of this surgery. So yeah, it's very interesting to see the dynamics of it all and how there's two different kinds of hierarchies within this cosmology, and then it all comes together and it creates almost like, the best way to describe it is, when I was little, they showed us the universe or the galaxy, our galaxy, and it was just a bunch of little balls with the little metal wires, and then all the balls spun around the sun. It really does, if you think about it, it really does picture that, and it really does align with that kind of a mental image. Like, there's you are the sun, and then all these other planets are just circling around you, and these are all spirits in different levels and different hierarchies and different categories, and it's a very beautiful concept. Unfortunately, a lot of this is lost or misunderstood, some of it on purpose and some of it by mistake. But yeah, that's the understanding of the cosmology, and I would implore you to really search into yourself and your family and try to understand the different kinds of spirits that may be relating to you and speaking to you and protecting you that you might not even be aware of in the first place. Because I see so many people sit here and they go on social media and they talk about my ancestors, my ancestors, my ancestors, and then they ignore everything everywhere else. So if you're speaking directly just on your ancestral spirits, right? Let's talk about this. You're directly speaking about one specific type of spirit from within a specific level of your spirituality. That is so specific, and yet there is so much more. You're talking about 1% of your entire spirituality. That's what you're addressing. That's what you are choosing to take in and try to comprehend of your spirituality. 1%. Just the stuff you know of. That's it. And there's so much more out there that you're not even aware of, that it could really benefit you if you did sit down and try to learn more about it. But yeah, I will leave you guys with a question this time around. If there is 3 known levels that we know of spirits, individual, family, and nation, and there is several, almost limitless types of categories for spirits, right? then why do we focus so heavily on just the Impungu and just the ancestors when there are so many more spirits out there that can actually help us just as well, if not better, but we never seem to acknowledge them? That's all the time I have for today. If you want to go ahead and try to answer this, please go ahead. Drop on to my Twitter and feel free to tag me in it. Also, I did want to point out, guys, thank you very much for all the feedback. I appreciate all of you. The Munansel website is up. It is a non-profit religious organization. If you feel it, go ahead and drop a donation. Every dollar counts, and we appreciate every single one of you, even the ones that will not say anything and just listen. I appreciate you for listening, and so do your ancestors. Y'all have a good one. Be blessed.